You said we are seeing liberation, all right, but it's liberation from globalization. What does that mean for the export of copper, for example, the import of copper into the United States?
Sure, yeah. So this pretty dramatic shift in trading relationship that the world has with the US, we think copper prices are going to fall pretty sharply in the very near term. So we think you mentioned it's sold off 3 or 4%. We think we're going to be another 8 to 10% lower in the next couple of weeks.
That's a pretty hefty shift. Is there not a silver lining in the sense that, okay, these tariffs are going on, but if copper goes lower, then perhaps there will be an incentive to pay those tariffs and import it as usual?
Sure. Yeah. So to some degree, I mean, to a very large degree, actually, these tariffs, certainly ex-US, deflationary. They're going to be deflationary, which is going to everywhere outside of the US and probably in the US over the next 6 to 12 months, bring down the cost of production, whether it's through lower oil or through just producers taking margin hits. And so this is going to lower the cost of production of many commodities, and that provides some extra impetus in terms of downside risk across the main risky commodities, copper, base metals, oil, over the next couple of months.
Do you see the trading vectors changing dramatically and then never going back, Max? I mean, do other countries start exporting and importing from each other? Is that doable in, say, the likes of copper and aluminum?
Yeah, I think that's certainly doable. Overall, though, I think we're super focused on how disruptive in the near term this is going to be, and we're kind of trying to be as clear as possible with our clients, telling producers they should take insurance against further downside in prices. Consumers should hold off on hedging, on buying, and investors, this is a pretty amazing opportunity to be bearish and be short over the next 2 to 3 months.
Oof. That's tough advice to give, Max. I mean, if you're hedging by being short, you're taking a lot of risk on just there and then. Are there any metals that you see will benefit? Are there substitute metals for any of these?
Sure. I mean, look, I think eventually we can be more positive, more bullish, much more bullish, actually. We don't know exactly when we can be more bullish, but there are a number of ways that the impact of these tariffs can be mitigated and even, offset to some degree. So, the Fed's got a lot of room to cut. China's got a lot of room to ease. Europe's already talking about fiscal easing on the defense side. Part of the tariffs can be walked back over time. And, the biggest thing that I thought was really interesting, or one of the biggest things, was not just the scale of these tariffs yesterday. It was that they're not obviously immediately going to be redistributed in tax cuts. So one thing that can happen that would make us much less bearish and potentially actually bullish alongside all those other factors is if President Trump moves to redistribute the tariff income as tax cuts. So we're really watching for that.
Which would come later in the year. There'll be a lagged effect. Max, we had been seeing some pull forward of demand. Things like autos, for example, saw a massive increase in sales in March. Have you seen that in the physical metal space as well?
Yeah, of course. I think that's been one of the biggest surprises, certainly for us, of the year, is that tariffs have been across the board bullish for physical markets in base metals, and that has attracted a lot of micro. The funds looking at the specifics of supply and demand, they've been bullish the last 3 or 4 months because of the kind of surprisingly bullish impact of tariffs, the pre-buying, the stockpiling, the lack of scrap exports from the US, the China stockpiling in particular, effectively going long dollars by stockpiling things like oil and copper and gold. All of this has been, super bullish for commodities and attracted specs, and that's all going to unwind in the next 3 or 4 months.